Hey guys, John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of EO Fire, and you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy with ldquo.
Welcome to Bravepreneur Parents Academy, where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs reveal their most defining childhood moments and share their legacy for raising brave little heroes who will grow up to change the world. And now, he still reads comic books under the blanket at bedtime. Please welcome your host, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and self-confessed geek dad, ldquo. You know, like the hotel in Vegas? Yeah, no, that's really his name. ldquo.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Today, we're talking to Stacey James Wheeler. Stacey is a family dynamics researcher, yes, there is such a thing, whose work is focused on the struggles of blended families. He's a speaker, author of the Stepdad's Guide to Resolving Family Conflict, and he's also the author of Stepdad 101. Get this, what to know before you marry a single mom. Whoa, okay, shots fired. We're about to find out exactly what Stacey James Wheeler has to say about stepdads. You can find him at stepdadding.com. He's a stepdad of 3 great kids. Stacey saves marriages. You hear me? This man's work is saving marriages and blended families anywhere. So, is he anti-single moms? We're about to find out. Please help me welcome Stacey James Wheeler. Welcome, Stacey.
Oh, Malachi, I can feel the applause. I should have you announce me everywhere.
I'm glad to follow you around, Stacey. Just let me know.
I'll follow you around.
Thank you for coming to the show today, Stacey. This is a real pleasure. I've been hearing really good things about your work. Your first book, The Stepdad's Guide to Resolving Family Conflict, has been a big hit. Rave reviews everywhere. So why don't we go ahead and jump into this? First, on a personal note, Stacey, you're a stepdad. You're a stepdad to 3 great kids. Why don't you tell us about your family, Stacey?
Oh, my kids are wonderful. All my kids are college age now. I've been in their lives for the last 15 years. The oldest is 22. So I have 2 girls and a boy. So the youngest is a girl, the oldest is a girl, and the poor boy is just wedged right there in the middle, just surrounded by women. Yeah, so I feel for him. Yeah.
Amazing. So 15 years as a stepfather.
Yeah, it's been an adventure.
Wow. This is a fascinating concept to those of us who have not lived in a blended family. I got to admit, I don't know that much about the dynamics of a blended family. So let's talk a little bit, before we get into the books you've written, can we talk a little bit about your personal experience? How did you meet your wife? What was it like when you learned she had kids? And how did that whole dynamic play out?
Yeah, that was, I think early on I was open to the idea of non-biological kids because when I was a kid I was sick and I had gone through some chemotherapy, and I was told that there was a chance I might not be able to have kids of my own after that because, radiation and chemo and all that. So when I met this woman, she had 3 kids, and it wasn't a problem. It was kind of nice, actually, because, if you have kids, you get what you get. But if you choose your kids, you get to pick your wife and kids. What a deal, So it was good. It was really lovely, and I met my youngest daughter early on, and I think that I probably just fell for her as much as I fell for her mom.
Wow.
Sweetie, she's 3.5, and my heart was wrapped around her so quickly it was ridiculous.
Wow.
And of course the other 2 as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How old were the older 2 when you met them?
Was 3.5, 5, and 7 were the age.
Okay. Okay. Oh, awesome. And what was it like for the kids? Well, this is something that a lot of us, at least from the outside in, maybe are concerned about. How are the kids going to take to the new guy in mom's life? So what was that like?
Well, there are a lot of challenges, and that's what Stepdad 101's about. It's easy as a stepdad coming in to just go, hey, I can be a dad. I've seen dads, maybe I've had a dad, it's just being a dad. And it is, but it's more than that too. The challenge is, you've got these other factors that affect your relationship that you have to deal with, and you have to be very, very direct about. Important conversations to have with your wife in terms of what role she wants you to play, and what that role means. Because it's one thing to say, hey, I want you to be another dad to the kids. Well, what's her version of what a dad is? Is that, is that Mike Brady from the Brady Bunch, or is it, Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show, or maybe Homer?
Cliff Huxtable.
Cliff Huxtable. Yeah, there you go. Cliff Huxtable.
Not Bill anymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, not Bill anymore. Or maybe it's Fred Flintstone. You don't want to assume that you know what her version of a dad is.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there are other factors too, like if the child's biological father's still in the picture, how do you develop that relationship so that you're working together instead of working against each other? And there are tools in both books for doing that. And also, just understanding really what those added dynamics are that are in there that cause a divorce rate that's well over 70%.
Yeah. Wow. And so you and your now wife got married. You had the 3 beautiful kids already, and you had not been a father before, so you were kind of learning on the job. How did you go from living this experience to deciding, well, were you a family dynamics researcher when you actually entered into this new family relationship?
I was not. I had an education in interpersonal communications and that sort of dynamic. So it was sort of on my radar in terms of communication is a huge part of everything that I do. Trying to figure out how things work. And so what really happened is the turmoil that was created in the family over a period of time, specifically between me and my wife, was mostly tension, crazy amounts of tension. And there's, ridiculous arguments over nothing that, this tension that lasts for days, and this giant question mark on, what is all this about? Where is this coming from? Because nothing seems to be wrong, but still there's this constant tension. And it was all the unspoken stuff. The conversations going on in our heads about, she's like, why is he acting this way? I'm doing my best version of a dad, and she's going, why is he acting that way? That's not how I want him to act. But no one's talking about it.
Yeah,
so there's this internal conflict. And now, we have a ridiculous argument over a ridiculous subject, and we're both tense about that now, and nothing seems to make sense. So it came down to me saying, wow, I got to figure out what this is. I can't have my relationship falling apart over something I don't even understand. And so I just dug in and started reading everything I could, and I quickly realized there's not one single location to find information about being a step-parent, even though as I discovered, nearly half the homes in the U.S. and more than half in Canada have at least one non-biological parent. It's a huge group of people that are underserved.
Wow.
And that's why I launched the website. After I'd done all this research and brought all this information together, for papers and for the first book and all this, I thought there has to be one place that people can go to learn about this stuff, to get it, easy answers instead of having to dig through research papers and government studies and, all the heavy stats that are no fun that I had to deal with.
Wow. Okay, so educate me a little bit, Stacey. What's the difference between, at the end of the day, being a stepdad and a biological dad? I mean, they're both fathers apart from the origin of the kids. Is there really a difference apart from biology?
There's no difference in terms of what your goal should be. Your goal should be to raise the best people that you can and put them in the world. But in terms of the strategy, stepdads have to almost be amateur psychologists. You have to find a really fine line to balance, and not as much with the kids as you might think, but more with the adult relationships, being able to define your role so that you're supporting your wife in a way that's going to be most beneficial to the kids, choosing whether there's a benefit in it to being the punisher, which I recommend against that because...
Really?
Yeah. I think a stepdad should definitely back up the mother, but I think the best... In fact, I don't think it. I know it. Statistically, it shows if a stepfather enters a family as a new member and he becomes the punisher right off the top, you're going to build this gap, this giant wall between the stepdad and the kids, and there's not going to be any bonding going on. The kids are going to see him as the enemy. Whereas a mother, kids are used to being punished by their mom and they get over it. But if some stranger walks in and says, hey, you got a timeout, well, now they can hold that grudge as long as they want. But if a mother lays down the rules and the stepdad goes, hey, look, he's like the cop. Hey, I don't write the rules, but I got to enforce them. And the judge says this is what the punishment is, so, turn in your cell phone or, whatever the punishment happens to be. So it's a really learning to work as a team in a much, much more solid way than even biological parents have to do that, but there's more strategy involved.
Stacey, I want to talk about that point before you go into the next one, because I know you have a lot of good stuff lined up next. But that point is surprising, but at the same time, I suppose it makes sense. I never would have thought of it, though. If you think about a family dynamic, often one parent is seen as maybe a little bit more strict than the other parent. Sometimes it's the dad. Traditionally, a lot of dads have been the disciplinarian in the family. That's not always the case. But if, let's say I grew up in a family where the dad was the disciplinarian, when I now become a father and I get into, in this situation, the stepdad role, I'm still going to see my role as being the disciplinarian. You're saying, regardless of how you grew up, though, if you're the step-parent, you should back up the biological parent. That's news to me.
There are some nuances there, too. The age of the kids makes a big difference. If you're entering a family where the kids are younger than 5 years old, it's different. You can kind of slide into that more, because kids are going to accept that more. If they're over the age of 5, they're going to be much less accepting.
Wow.
So, the other thing you can do as well is the longer you're in a child's life, the more you can slowly move into that role. But it can't be immediate because it's sort of jarring. And, as I said, family bonding, I could go into bonding. I think my next book's going to be all about bonding. People don't want to hear about it because it seems like a boring subject. But there's no more important thing in family dynamics with step-parenting than bonding. It takes years, 2 or more years to get to where you wake up one day and go, hey, we feel like a family. It takes little things, little work as you go along. And most of it's fun work. Spending time together, creating new traditions, creating memories, taking lots of pictures, being a family. But the one thing that does get in the way real quickly is if, you come out as the enemy right off the top, the kids see you as the bad guy, then you're doomed.
Wow. Okay, that's news. So, Stacey, what are some other roadblocks that face the blended family unit when they first come together? One, you've outlined, which is the step-parent jumping in and being the disciplinarian. That's a bad idea. But what are some other roadblocks to the blended family?
One really common roadblock is what I call the X factor, the EX factor.
X factor.
It's vital to not let your wife's opinion of her ex taint your opinion of her ex.
Oh, that's kind of hard though, because she knows the ex. You're just maybe meeting them for the first time.
And honestly, I don't know any couples that split up because they got along too well.
Right.
You don't end up with a great opinion of your ex.
Right.
So the reason that it's important not to do that, and I don't care if the guy's a felon, he still has more legal rights than you do. In fact, stepdad, you really have no legal rights at all.
Wow.
And I could get into that. I'll tell you a statistic later that'll melt your brain. But for now, you take my word for that. Stepdads have no legal rights, and biological fathers have a ton of legal rights. And on top of that, even if you take that out of the picture, if the father's in the children's lives, he can influence them. And kids have a natural reaction towards their father of wanting that person to accept them. And if that guy decides that you're the bad guy and starts telling the kids that you're the bad guy, you're doomed. It's going to really mess it up. So the reason it's vital to deal with the X factor is that you have to build a bridge there. Whether you think the guy's a good guy or not, you have a conversation with him. He is in an emotionally vulnerable position because now there's another man in his kids' lives that he has no control over. He's scared to go on some emotional level. You are in a much less emotionally vulnerable position as a stepdad, so it's your job to say, hey, let's have coffee and talk about the kids. Or, let's grab a beer, whatever it is. and just let him know that you're not there to replace him. You know that he's the father, and you get that, and you're not going to try to replace him. You're not going to try to step on his toes. You just want to be there for the kids, and you want to keep the lines of communication open. And that's huge.
And what if he's hostile to you even after you extend the olive branch?
Well, personality is the ultimate variable in all communication. And there's nothing you can do about someone who doesn't want to communicate with you or who is irrational, or in the worst case, maybe they're an addict. You can't deal with those people. All you can do is what you can do. But what you have to do is you have to do what's in the best interest of your kids at the start. And that's trying to make it work. And if you've done everything you can to try to make it work, then at least you've done that. But if you fail, you fail. But you have to try.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, the X factor, EX factor, that's a really good one. I was curious as to how you would handle that. Could you give us one more roadblock to these blended families? I understand that a lot of blended families, even more so than biological families, tend to fail. What's one more reason that leads to their demise?
Yeah, the failure rate is huge. It's in fact, half the bets on a roulette wheel give you better odds than staying married to a single mom. That's how bad it is. It's huge. And the biggest roadblock of all, it really is communication with your spouse. And it's you know, when I talk about role, it's more than just the role of, you know, who you are as a dad. One of the biggest roadblocks is couples don't have that initial conversation. They're in love and it feels good and all that. And what they need to do is they need to sit down and look at every variable they can think of. What are the standards for the kids? And this is especially important if he's bringing kids in, which is a rare thing. You know, less than 20% of all stepdads actually have kids before they come into a marriage, so they have no experience at all.
Okay.
But having conversations about, you know, what the expectations are for the kids, whether it's school, chores, any of those things, so you can find middle ground, you know, common ground on that you can agree on, and then you can both hold them accountable for. You know, what's your rules in terms of electronics? You know, do they get to use computers, cell phones? How are the kids punished when they're punished? Because that style is important. And the great thing about electronics is you don't need to spank kids anymore. You take away their cell phone for an afternoon. Little things like that. And then, you know, holidays. How are holidays celebrated? Believe it or not, that's a strange thing that gets in the way. How are vacations done? If they're used to going to Disneyland every year and your thing is you like to camp, there's, you know, little things like that that strangely enough become sticking points. And, you know, you want to find middle ground there. And there's good that comes from it because kids can experience new things. You don't have to take something away to give them something else. And in terms of, you know, expectations, holding them to their expectations and, you know, being consistent on punishments. As long as everyone's consistent and on the same page, then that's going to help. It's really building a playbook with your wife on how you're going to raise these kids.
Wow. Wow, there's a lot to think about, but at the same time, I mean, I like the fact that, goodness, you've been a stepfather to 3 wonderful kids for 15 years. They've grown up with you from ages 3 to about 7 or 8. Now they're all in college. This is amazing. Does this advice pertain to stepmothers as well?
Yeah, it really does. In terms of the communication, all the lessons are the same. And, you know, the communication with the ex is really huge. In fact, my experience has been that, you know, biological moms and stepmoms are more likely to rack horns than, you know, biological dads and stepdads. They're more vocal. Guys tend to reel it in and lock it down. Women, you know, they're better at speaking their mind.
Right.
For the good or the bad, you know.
Right. Interesting. Okay, now, Stacey, I got to call you to task. I got to hold your feet to the fire here.
Let's do it.
All right. Your first book is excellent, Stepdad's Guide to Resolving Family Conflict. You've come out with another book, and this book has created a little bit of controversy, Stacey. It's titled Stepdad 101, What to Know Before You Marry a Single Mom. What's going on, Stacey? What do you have against single moms? You trying to scare guys away from single moms?
You'd think so. You know, I would like to scare guys away from single moms that aren't qualified to be stepdads and aren't ready. because it's ultimately about the kids. I would love, the reason I wanted to put this book together is that it has all the information I wish that I'd had before I married a single mom. And the information is stuff that guys don't know. And I can give you a couple of statistics that'll melt your brain. And things that you don't think of, like I was talking about earlier, legal rights of stepdads. Stepdads have barely any legal rights in the U.S. In terms of being able to get custody, to be able to get visitation if you split up. However, in 20 U.S. states, a stepdad can be compelled to pay child support if he does leave a woman that he's been with for a period.
Lovely.
So there's an imbalance there. Many men don't get that. They don't get that, okay, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But in 20 states in the U.S. and all the provinces of Canada, you can be compelled to pay child support if it doesn't work out. However, this is how imbalanced it is. There are 31 states where rapists who father children can sue for rights to visitation.
Oh, my gosh.
So a rapist has more legal rights than a man who is doing his best to do a job he doesn't have to do, but he volunteered to do to raise kids.
That's outrageous.
Right. So that's one little fact in the book. The X factor is covered as well, which is important. The divorce rate, which is massive, is covered in great length. All these facts come together in the book because it's really vital that guys understand what they're getting into and how the kids' ages play into it so that they can look at the facts and say, yeah, you know what, I am up for this, or go, wow, I didn't realize all this. I don't think I want to do it. And if a guy decides he's not going to do it, that's great. In fact, I recommend women give this book to their man and say, read this, because what they've done is they've disqualified this candidate. He's not the right guy for the job. Their kids aren't going to have to see this man come in their life and then leave their life with somebody and lose them again. So that's painful, and kids shouldn't go through that.
Yeah. Hey, that's a very good point. Stacey, what do you think is the impact on kids who have a man come into their life as a stepfather, or perhaps even prior to getting to the marriage phase? Their mother brings in a boyfriend or mate, and eventually, after months or years, that man leaves the children's life. What impact does that have on the kids?
The impact varies depending on how the adults handle it. If the person disappears from their life, never to be seen again, that's a very bad thing. If the couple splits up and they can stay on good enough terms and the mother understands that there's a bond here that's important and she fosters that, this is a really positive thing. It's one more positive male role model in a child's life. Wow. The statistics are frightening. Kids that are raised without a father, a full-time father, have higher rates of alcohol and drug use, and this, on the high school level even, incarceration, depression, and suicide. And I'm talking by, in some cases, multiple, like not twice as much or 3 times as much, but 4 times as much. I mean, huge numbers. And those numbers are on stepdad&rsquo. People can look them up. But that's how important a full-time father figure is, in a family that is balanced. And so it's not just having a man there; it's having a man there with the mother that are working together, in a non-turmoil family. And so stepdads can play a really huge role. I like to say, people don't get how important this is, but let's talk about George Washington, the father of our country. He was actually the stepfather of our country. He has 2 children. He never had any biological children of his own. And he has no direct descendants to him because he raised his 2 kids, because that's the way you did it. You married a woman with kids, you raised the kids. No one talks about him being his stepkids because they weren't. They were his kids.
Wow, that's good. I did not know that. That's very cool. Okay, so you've given us a lot of really, really good insight, a lot to think about. There's more in those 2 books for folks who are in blended families or thinking about creating a blended family. Thank you for being so transparent with this stuff. Now, Stacey, we have a tradition here. We've spoken about traditions. We have a tradition. Everybody that comes on, we got to put them through the Superman phone booth, okay? You've turned into a phenomenal father to those 3 beautiful kids. You're saving families every day with your work. We want to know how you became Superman. So we're going to go back to your childhood. With your permission, we're going to put you in the phone booth and go through the lightning round. Are you okay with that, Stacey?
Excellent. Bring the uncomfortable questions.
Uncomfortable, awkward questions. Let's go. All right. Favorite superhero growing up?
I would have to say Batman. I like Batman because Batman's just a normal guy. He just has like all these great tools and skills. So like he shows you that you don't have to have superpowers to do good things.
Interesting. And coincidentally, Batman is almost a stepfather to Robin.
Yay, I like that. I hadn't considered that.
Although the rate at which he puts Robin in mortal danger might make it questionable as to how good of a stepdad he is. But
there was bonding experiences, but
It was bonding. It was bonding. I love it. Favorite cartoon TV show growing up?
Oh, it has to be Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Who doesn't like a guy who can talk to his dog and understand what he's saying?
Oh, man. And my kids still love that show. That just shows you the greats are timeless.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Favorite family tradition growing up?
Wow. I always liked decorating for Halloween. We didn't do it as much when I was a kid, but it's something that me and my kids have done. And we've had some real fun with that, like doing spooky, scary, weird stuff and getting a fog machine, and putting a chalk outline on the driveway.
Okay. You guys go all out.
We have fun.
I love it. I love it. Stacey, what was one embarrassing moment for you that sticks out as a child? One of those cringeworthy moments, maybe, that you might not have talked about too much. Your kids will love to hear this, by the way.
Oh, man. Yeah, they hear all my stories. Wow, gosh. Okay, well, it's kind of a double thing. First of all, my name's Stacey, and I'm a boy, so, you can imagine my childhood. So at some point, I had told my mother I thought tap dancing was cool for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe we were watching TV, and I said, that's neat. And so she checked me into some tap dancing class that turned out to be more ballet than tap.
No.
And I was a kid in there in 4th grade who was a boy. I got out to the playground, and that was an interesting year.
Oh, my gosh.
Especially with a name like Stacey. But at some point that same year, that summer, I went to summer school and decided I didn't want to be Stacey. And it was one town over, so nobody knew me. So they started asking, we're going to call your name, and if you go by something different, let me know. And so I said, I'm James. And they said, okay, great. So it was a 6-week course or something, and by the end of it, the instructor thought I was deaf because I didn't respond, So she would lead off questions, James!
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I was glad that summer I was Stacey, and I just got over it.
Well, there you go, Stacey. You wear it well. You wear it well. Stacey, what is one big struggle you went through, either in those childhood years or, the teenage years, whether it was bullying or negative peer pressure or relationships with family? What's one of those big struggles you went through?
Gosh, it's tough to narrow down. There's a lot of stuff. As I mentioned, I don't think I mentioned, I was raised by a single mom. She raised 4 boys on her own, and we were pretty poor growing up. There was a time we were on welfare about half my childhood. I had an autistic brother, so severely autistic, so she had to be with him a lot. So it made it hard for her to work. And so I had to deal with that moment where someone said, "You're poor." I'm in line at the school, and it's like, oh, you get the free lunch because you're poor, and I think it was in 2nd or 3rd grade, and that really
Wow.
I had to kind of deal with that. And then I had a speech impediment growing up, too. And so, they would take me aside, once a week, and they would work on me with a speech therapist. And, because I had an autistic brother, I had this identity thing where I thought, maybe I'm special, too, and nobody's telling me, tell me, so... For a long time, I really had that where I struggled with trying to figure out if there was something wrong with me. And, that was a tough thing. And it's not something you talk about as a kid. It's just something you internalize.
Yeah.
And, I didn't let that stop me ultimately. And I think, thanks to my mother's influence, that's a good thing. But it is interesting that, little things can get in your head and can slow you down, or they can get in your head and you go, I don't care. I'm going to just be the best me I can be.
Wow. That's profound on so many levels, man. And somehow you pushed through that, and look at where you are today.
Yeah, it's all about seeing, what's ahead of you. It's little victories. They all add up.
They all add up. They all add up. I love that. I love that. Stacey, what do you see as your number one job as dad?
My number one job as dad is to help create good people for the rest of the world. There's some point in raising my kids where I realized, they're adults. At some point you turn that corner where you realize that you're no longer raising these people, you're guiding adults. And, my attitude about it's always been anyway, they're already kids. You're not raising kids. You're raising adults. But at some point you start guiding them.
Interesting. I've never heard it put that way. You're not raising kids because they're already kids. You're raising the kids into adults. I love that. Stacey, I want to give you one more question before we let you get out of here. And folks, we're listening to Stacey J. Wheeler of stepdadding.com. This guy is giving us the good stuff, the business from his books, The Stepdad's Guide to Resolving Family Conflict and Stepdad 101, What to Know Before You Marry a Single Mom. Note, he loves single moms. His mom's a single mom. Here's the question, Stacey. Let's pretend it's about 20 years from now. Your kids are happily married. They've got their own little Stacey Juniors or James Juniors, whichever way you want to go. They're doing their own Halloween celebrations every year. They're making their own family traditions. Happy families, all three of them. What would you like to say, Stacey, to your kids? They're listening to this recording in 20 years. What would you like them to hear about why you did the things you did in 2015? Why you raised them the way you did? Why you made the sacrifices you did? Why you sometimes disciplined them the way you did? What would you like to say to your kids 20 years from now?
Oh, this is a beautiful opportunity. Every parent should have this opportunity. Kat, Brandon, and Chastity. All my most important treasures I've given you. My wisdom, my advice, my life experience. I know there are times that you didn't like me very much because you thought I was trying to wreck your life and ruin your fun. But there were a lot of times that we also laughed and joked. I'm your stepdad. But I didn't make you, but I decided early on that I was going to raise you like I did, and that's what I did. No regrets. I hope you feel the same way about me. By now, you've all got kids, so you understand why I said no more than I said yes. And you know now probably why the teen years are actually as hard on parents as they are on the teen. And you realize that the traditions we shared are the things that really keep us together, even after some of us are gone. So when I married your mom, I did choose to raise you as my own. And I did that. I passed on all my love and my care. And I hope you pass that love and that care and those traditions on to your kids and hold me in your heart, because I know I'll hold you in mine forever. If I, for some reason, am gone by the time you get this, just know that. If I'm still around, I'll be nearly 80. So look me up, find me in 20 years on whatever Caribbean island I'm on. Hunt me down. I'll be the guy on the loudest boat playing Jimmy Buffett in the harbor. I'll be about 90-something. Just give me a big hug and tell me it's time to slow down. Love you guys.
Stacey James Wheeler. Stacey. Love it. This guy's going to make me cry up in here, man. I'm not supposed to do that.
That'll get me going, too.
Stacey James Wheeler, y'all. Stepdadding.com. You could put the step in front of the name at the end of the day. This guy's a real dad. And hats off to the woman that raised him. Folks, you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy. It's been real. Y'all need to rewind this one, listen to it again, and then go hug your kids. Stacey, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Balaji.
All right, folks. We're going to have another great one for you. This has been an emotional one, but it's moments like this that make us remember what an honor it is to be a parent. Make sure you visit stepdadding.com. That's StepDadding.com. Check out Stacey James Wheeler. Pick up his books. Like him on Facebook. Link up to him. Give him a shout. Let him know how much you appreciate the transparent, naked honesty on this call today. I definitely appreciate it. Stacey, thanks again. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, up, and away!
Thanks for supporting my dad's show. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to iTunes. He said hot chocolate is for closers. If you don't subscribe, I don't get hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate.
Fear not. Although this chapter of Bravepreneur Parents Academy has come to its conclusion, we have many more adventures for you and your brave little heroes. Head over to bravequest.me for access to the Brave Quest Journal, an interactive activity playbook that rewards your little ones with points for accomplishing tasks that build character and unleash your child's inner superhero all before bedtime. We look forward to having you join us for more adventures next time on Bravepreneur Parents Academy.